guys, welcome back for episode number 117 of the weekly playback. Thank you to everyone who gave feedback on the lighting or sound. Miraculously, my ring light started working again today. So like I said, the connection is really bad and I thought it had gone completely out, but it looks like it's still got some juice left in it. So it just miraculously started working today. So today I do have a front light, but next week I might not again. So we'll see. So I have a couple of games to get through and then just all of the other stuff, so let's just get started. So let's talk about Nestlings. Nestlings is a 2024 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Brandon Omi, and the art is done by Nilanjan Malakar, and it is published by Tangerine Games. And this is a review copy which I received from Tangerine Games. Now this is let's see, it's an area majority influence kind of game. There's dice rolling involved, hand management, set collection, and worker placement with dice workers. So in this game, I'm gonna have to use pictures because there's a lot of stuff here, but you are going to have one main board, and the main board is going to have different biome regions associated on it. So you're going to have savanna, you're going to have the alpines, you're going to have the desert and the freshwater. So basically like a grassy region, a desert region, a mountain region, and a water region. And in these different areas are going to be populated tokens. So you're going to have these different region bags, and all of them are going to contain tokens from their own region plus one wild token. So they all contain all the colors from their own region and then one wild token per bag. So at the beginning of the round, you're going to pull out a certain number of tokens. So what you need is 4 different kinds of species visible. So for example, if you pull out 2 of the same kind, you would put the second one on top of the already species of that you pulled out, and then you would have to pull out 3 more. Again, you could have another duplicate, so you might have another set of 2, but you can never have more than 2 in a region of 1 species. So in the end, you're going to have 4 different things available, but again, some of them might have 2 in a little stack for you to collect. So you're going to do that with all of the different regions populated with these tokens. Then in turn order, and you know, at the start of the game, you just have to pick a first player somehow. I don't know if the rulebook specified how you pick a first player, but you're just going to have a first player, and they will start the game. And then one by one, you're going to place the dice that you had previously rolled into the various regions. So everyone will have their own little insert, and this is the deluxe version of the game. So the non-deluxe version might look a little bit different and maybe doesn't have an insert like this. So each person has their own little bird miniature, and again, in the non-deluxe version, I believe it's going to be the bird meeples, which were provided with the scheme as well. So, but in the deluxe version, you have this miniature, which fits very nicely into the center of your own player board. Then you're going to have all of these tokens that show you the different kinds of species that you're going to be collecting and placing on a ring around your own player board, which I'll show you in a second. But you're also going to have all of these dice, which show you the different kinds of regions on them. So for example, here is the desert, and here is the mountains, and so funny fact, I thought that this was a storm cloud. It turns out it's a tree. So at one point during the game, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my die in the storm cloud, my storm cloud in this region, and the savannah region. And then one of my friends was like, storm cloud? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's a tree. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, it's not a storm cloud, it is a tree. So yes, so each person is going to take turns putting out their dice in turn order. So after you've done that, then you will be able to resolve starting with priority in the region that you're supposed to start with. There's going to be a little token that indicates which region you start with. Then one by one, you're going to start collecting the tokens and placing them on your player board or underneath your player board. And then for each token you took, you will place the matching wedge, if you had not previously placed it, into this circle. And again, this is where your miniature will sit if you have like the deluxe version, or your meeple if non-deluxe. So let me make sure of the right side of the board, because there are 2 different sides of the board. Yeah, I think that this is the right side, the correct side. So yes, So you are going to do that and then take your token. So why would you want to put a token up here? So you can only put a token up here that matches your own player color. So for example, if I am blue, the blue player, I can only place blue tokens up here. However, blue tokens can also go down here as well as any other color. And you can put a wild here pretending it's a blue, that's fine as well. So the reason you would want to maybe put a blue token up here is because then at the end of the round, you will get to see where your token is placed and then take that number of wedges in that region and you'll get to collect extra points. However, if you don't put it there and you put it at the bottom, then at the bottom of the board, you're also going to have the ability to fulfill various objectives, public objectives, public is the word I was looking for, and you also have the ability to score end of game points from the tokens that you collect down here. However, if you fulfill a public objective using the tokens that you've put down at the bottom of your board, those tokens will then have to be discarded. So there's going to be, I believe, 4 different public objectives that you could try to meet, which will be on a certain board, and I'll post a picture of it, and they're kind of in order. So if you complete an objective at the very bottom, then you could try to complete the next objective. However, if you decide to just jump straight to the top and complete the very top objective, then you cannot anymore complete the objectives that were below that. So again, just refer to the picture to see how that works. So the various objectives might have you collecting certain types of tokens, maybe 3 of one kind, 2 of another kind, and so on. And when we say tokens, we're not referring to the color, we are referring to the actual species that is depicted on the token. So again, for example, these would be 2 of a kind because of the strawberries or berries that are on them, not because of their color. So you're always looking at the species that are on the tokens. So again, you're going to put your dice in the various areas of the board in turn order that you previously rolled at the start of the round, and then resolve them in priority level. So you're going to start with the region that is currently marked as being resolved first. So you're going to first see if someone has a stack of 2 dice. So you can stack up dice. So if you really want a token from a certain region, for example, you might put down 2 mountain dice in the Alpine region, in which case you would get priority if no one else has 2 dice. However, let's suppose the first person to place their dice there then later put another die on top of their already existing die, and since they were the first person there, they would have put it in the first slot. So first you're going to check to see height. So if one person is the only player with 2 dice, then they get priority and they get to select their token or tokens first. And then they would also get to, I believe, discard something that is already present there. So they would get to take a token and discard it into the matching token bag. Then the next player would get to go. However, if there are multiple people with 2 dice, then you look and see who is closest to being the first in that region. So the person who put their dice farthest to the left. So first you're looking at height, and then you're going from left to right in order to resolve who has priority and will collect their tokens. You're going to do that for each of the 4 regions. There is a central part of the board where you can put any die, including blank ones. And if you are the first person to go there, you will get the first player marker for the next round. And then after all 4 regions have been resolved, with the leftover tokens, you will get to select a token. There may be an instance where there are no tokens left and you are just left with nothing. If you were, like, for example, the 3rd player to place a die in the middle of the board and there's no leftover tokens, then too bad for you. So that is how the worker placement part of this game works. If you choose to use 1 fewer die in a specific round, then you will get to use your reserve die. So you start the game with rolling 5 dice, and on the top part of your board you will have a space for your reserve die, and if you choose to forego a die, then you will have 6 dice for the next round, and you can do this from round to round. Additionally, you can use 2 dice and discard them, like put them aside, and instead put your bird meeple above a certain token to reserve a specific token. So that, you know, is something you, I guess, would want to do if you really want to reserve a certain token, because you are now, making it so you have fewer wedges on your board by doing that, because otherwise you might be able to get 2 wedges instead of just 1. But again, not always, because sometimes there's going to be tokens that appear on the board that you already have the wedges of on your own personal player board. So you can't collect the same wedge twice because you're only given 1 of each wedge for each species that exists in this game. And once you've already placed the wedge on your board, there's going to be no more wedges for you to place if you collect the same token again. So after everyone has, you know, collected their tokens and placed their wedges on their board, then you have end of round scoring. So end of round scoring, you will, again, if you placed a matching token of your own color here, depending on where you placed it above, sorry, wrong side, above which colored wedge, then you will see how many of those wedges you have. So for example, if I placed my token here, my blue token, because I'm a blue player, and then I would get 2 points immediately for that, and then 1 point for each green wedge I have. So when you collect a token of your own color, you would want to put it there if you think you're going to have a lot of wedges of a single color, and maybe you'll be able to get a lot of points that way. Otherwise, maybe you might not want to do that, because then you might want to put it at the bottom of your board instead in order to complete those public objectives, or to try to get end of game points, because at the end of the game, you will get 3 points for every unique set of 3 tokens you have. And by unique set of tokens, you cannot use the same species in 2 different sets, which I thought you could do mistakenly. So I thought, for example, if I have 2 crabs, I could create 1 unique set of tokens and then another unique set of tokens. No, you cannot do that. So it's just every 3 unique tokens you have, you will get 3 points. So, you know, maybe not the most efficient way to get points, because who knows, but if you use a token up here, you do have to discard it at the end of the round. Once you've claimed points for it, you cannot move it down here. Additionally, if you complete a whole section in your wheel, you will get to unlock one of the abilities that you'll get to do. So there are various abilities around this that you'll get to do, which no one in our game, I believe, was able to do. Additionally, if you complete one of the public objectives, there are going to be these point markers here. You're going to place your own little token in place of where the point marker was, and they're going to have special abilities on the back of them that you can turn in and take the special ability on your turn. So for example, or you can just save them for the 3 points at the end. So all of those tokens are going to have 3 points on the back, and on the front they will have some kind of a special ability. Like for example, this one. This one will let you increase your energy level, which I'll explain in a minute what that means. So yeah, so you can, if you complete an objective, and there will be cards here with the various objectives, then you can collect one of the tokens and then get the points for it immediately. You are collecting your points immediately and round to round. So there are point tokens which you'll be collecting in order to keep track of your points. And then you can save that token for the 3 points at the end of the game, or you can use it for its special ability. On your own personal player board, there is this one section where you're going to have a marker that starts at the top. During the game, you might want to decrease it in order to change the face of a die to be exactly what you want. Once you reach the bottom, you can no longer use that ability because you're out of energy here. So you can only do it a certain number of times. I think I was the only player who actually ended up using it. I don't think the other players actually did that. And I came in last place. So maybe that says something. So yeah, so I think that's it, but let me just double check and make sure I went through everything by looking at the player aid. So yeah, end of round scoring I went through. So yes, and then end of game scoring. So you're going to, there's also personal objectives that each person has. Each person is going to have a personal objective card, which is one of these. And depending on when you collect that specific item, depending on what round you're in, you'll get a certain number of points. So if you collected a certain token in the first round, then you will get 3 points for it. If you collected it in the second round, you'll get 2 points. Wait, is that backwards? No. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Yes, I was looking at the right thing. Okay, so if you collect it in the first round, you get 3 points. If you collect it in the second round, you get 2 points. If you collect it in the third round, you get 1 point. And if you collect it in the fourth round, nothing. So you want to try to collect these tokens early on if you can. And once you collect them, this is just your own personal objective, but it is visible to everyone. So it's face up. Then you will just put the point token on it to show in which round you collected it and that you've already basically taken care of it. So yeah, so end of game scoring, you're going to tally up all of your previously earned victory point tokens. And then again, the energy track, you'll see how many points you have left there, if any. And then you get 12 victory points for completing your biome ring. I don't think anyone in our game completed their entire ring. I think that that would be really hard to do, actually. And then you gain 3 victory points if you currently hold the first player token, because again, that does take a die in the middle of the board in order for you to get that token. And then you gain 3 victory points for each unused gathering goal bonus. So again, those are those small tokens that you would have gotten if you completed one of the public objectives and you didn't use the bonus ability, then you would get 3 points instead. Then you gain victory points for each set of 3 unique resources remaining below your player board, and then gain victory points for each biome segment in your least populated biome area. So this is where you want to try to keep these relatively equal in terms of the wedges you have. So because you're going to get victory points for your least populated area. So it's one of those like mechanics where you try to want to keep everything balanced, because if one section has just one wedge and all the others are filled, you're just basically going to score for that one wedge, which, you know, would really suck. So you want to try to keep it balanced, and that is the game. So apparently there are more advanced rules you can play with, like there's another side to the player board you can play with that, you know, looks a bit different. So I'm assuming that gameplay is a little bit different, and it looks like there's some kind of a family mode as well, family variant. So it looks like there's more going on that you can do with this game. But yeah, it was a nice little pleasant game. It's a kind of like a little bidding game in a sense, because, you know, you want to prioritize where you want to place your dice, and then, you know, there's a little bidding involved because someone might be able to outbid you by using 2 dice, and then again, considering placement of dice, you're determining priority and stuff like that. So yes, there is a bit more going on that meets the eye, I guess, but overall it is a lighter game. It is a lighter game, still strategic, but lighter. So if you want something that can play a little bit more quickly than, you know, a lot of other strategic games that I guess hobby board gamers might play, then this might be a good one to get out, especially for a family game night. Like, it's not overly complicated or anything like that, and it's got fantastic components. So I think, you know, the components in this really enhance the gameplay if you have the deluxe version, especially. If you don't have the deluxe version, then you'll have these cool meeples to use, and there's 2 meeples of each color, and they are beautiful. Yes, so these are really nice as well. So if you don't have the deluxe version, then you will have these meeples, and I don't know whether the standard version includes like wooden wedge pieces or what. I don't know anything about that. So I only have this version to look at, so I'm not sure. So yeah, so that is Nestlings. So again, thank you so much to the publisher for gifting me this review copy. I believe it is my 2nd bird game, so it is exciting to have 2 bird themed games now, the other one being Bird Watcher. And I do hope I will get to play this again, because I performed very abysmally. Yeah, I played a 3-player game of it and performed quite badly, and so I would like to try it again. It took me a little bit of time before I kind of, you know, started formulating a strategy, and I'm not sure I had the best strategy. I'm the only one in the game who actually used a bird to get a specific token throughout the entire game, and maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So yeah, so we'll see. I'll play it again someday and let you know how that goes. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is The Bloody Inn. This is a 2015 game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Nicolas Robert, and the art is done by Luis Francisco and Weberson Santiago, who is like my favorite board game artist, and it is published by Pearl Games. So this, I'm guessing, isn't out of print games, because I know that Pearl Games no longer exists, so I'm guessing it's out of print at this point. So I've played this game a number of times, and a friend of mine really wanted to play it last night with his daughter, and so we played it with his daughter and his wife. So we played a 4-player game of this. You know, the rules are a little bit difficult with this game. The rule book is not the best, but you're basically going to have this inn, and around this inn you're going to place, so depending on the number of players, so I'll just speak about a 4-player game. So each person is going to have keys in their own color. So each person is going to select a room and place a key of their, you know, of their color on a door. And then with the remaining doors, you'll have neutral colored keys. And then starting with the first player, whoever is the first player for a certain round, they will select from cards from the draw pile and one by one place a guest in each room. So they're going to look at the guest and decide in which room they want to place a specific guest. And then once all the rooms are filled up, then starting with the start player, you will go around and take one action each until every player has taken 2 actions. So what you're trying to do in this game is you are trying to get people into your hand, and then you're also trying to kill people in the end. You're trying to murder certain people so that you can collect money from their pockets. You need to bury them in order to collect the money, and so on. So different people in this game have affinities for doing different things. So each person starts the game with 2 peasants. So each peasant has a rank of 0, and the only amount of money they have in their pocket is 4 coins in case you do decide to kill and bury a peasant. So each person starts the game with 2 peasants in hand. So the various actions you can take while going around on your turn are to bribe a guest. So if there's a guest, a traveler in the inn who you want to take into your own hand, you will look at his rank and discard that number of cards. So for example, if I wanted to bribe this guy, his rank is 2. So I would need to discard 2 cards from my hand in order to get him. However, if you have a card, a person in your hand who has an affinity for bribing, which would be indicated by a dollar symbol on them, like this newsboy. So this dollar symbol indicates that they have an affinity for bribing. So I could use this card and my peasant and decide to discard these 2 cards in order to then bribe this count into my hand. However, because the newsboy has an affinity for bribing, I would get to take him back into my hand and the peasant would be discarded. When peasants are discarded, they are put into the bistro over here. However, everyone else is put into a discard pile, which is called the exit pile because they're exiting the inn. So that's how you get people into your hand. Another action you can do is to build an annex. So you will see that a lot of these cards have a house on them, and that will indicate how many people can be buried underneath them. So in this case, 0, this person cannot hold any people underneath him, but that's because blue annexes usually give you a special ability of some kind. However, like for example, if you have this annex built, which would cost you 3 cards to build. So everything in this game is going to cost you cards that you will need to discard. And then each thing has, you know, the affinity bonus. So for example, I'll get to all of them, but let's suppose I was building an annex of a certain kind, and I was building this gardener. So let's suppose I was building this gardener annex, which would cost 3 cards. Let's suppose I had the mechanic in my hand and I decided to discard him. I could take him back into my hand because of this trowel that indicates he has an affinity for building. So he would get to come back into my hand. And you can see from the player aid, like what each action is and the symbol that indicates the affinity for that action. So that is building an annex. And again, you have to discard the number of cards required as indicated on that house. And different annexes will give you different kinds of abilities, and some of them will give you end of game things, some of them will give you immediate things, some of them will just give you space to bury someone, and so on. Another action you can do on your turn is to kill a guest. So that's where you're going to pick someone from one of the rooms around the inn and choose to kill them. Again, you have to discard the number of cards equal to that person's rank. And this time, if you have someone with a symbol, a gun symbol on the card, that means they have an affinity for killing. So if you use that card to kill someone, that card can come back into your hand. And then finally, you can bury a corpse. This is where you can take one of your killed people. So when you kill someone, you just turn the card upside down and lay it in front of you to indicate that they are dead. Now you can bury this person underneath an annex. When you bury someone, that's when you get to collect the amount of money that's indicated on that card, which is in their pockets. And again, you need to discard the number of cards indicated on their tombstone in order to bury them. However, if you have a card in your hand that has a tombstone symbol on it, again on the front upper right or left, which indicates they have an affinity for burying, then you would get to take that card back into your hand. So those are the major actions that you can take on your turn. So again, you're going to take 2 actions per round. So each person will take 1 and then another action and then so on. Another action you can do is to pass. So when you pass, each person starts the game with 1 check. So there are these checks which are worth 10 francs each. and each person starts with one of these, and then the board will keep track of how many francs you have when you bury people or just gain them from other actions that you take throughout the game. In the standard version of the game, you can never exceed 40 francs. However, during a pass action, you can exchange a check for 10 francs, or you can turn in 10 francs for a check. So that's something you can do if you decide to pass. After everyone has taken their action, you're going to check the inn and see if there are any police left in the inn. If there are, and you have unburied corpses, you need to pay 10 francs or a check in order to avoid losing that corpse. Otherwise, you will lose the corpse. So if you have, again, any unburied corpses, you don't want unburied corpses if there are going to be police left in the inn. Who are the police? They are the people who have the gun symbol on the front. So for example, this person, it says he's a peacekeeper, but he is actually a policeman because he has the gun symbol. So if he's still in the inn at the end of a round and you have an unburied corpse, you are going to need to pay 10 francs or 1 check. Then you need to pay wages. So if you have any cards left in your hand, so basically not an annex, not a corpse, or not buried, but in your hand, then you need to pay 1 franc per card in your hand, unless you have a special ability from a certain card that lets you avoid doing that. I'm not sure if there is a card like that. And then you prepare for the next round. Oh, before you prepare for the next round, if there is a guest left in a room that you own that has a key of your color, you will gain a franc for each guest left in your room. Then all the guests go to the exit pile, and then the next person in turn order will now be the active player, and they will get to draw 1 guest at a time, placing them in the various rooms. That is basically the gist of the game. You are going to do this until the draw pile runs out twice, and then you will go to end of game scoring. At the end of the game, you will still need to pay for unburied corpses. So whether or not there's a policeman at the inn, you're still going to need to pay 10 francs for any unburied corpses, and you will still need to pay wages. So in the standard variant, you cannot go above 40 francs on the main board. However, at the very end, then you will be able to see how many francs you have, see how many checks you have. So each check will be worth 10 francs, and then whoever has the most francs will win. So I actually won last night's game. I did reach the maximum of 40 francs, and then I had 1 check left over at the end of the game, for which I was able to cash it in for another 10 francs and get to 50, because we interpreted the rules as being that at the very end, after you've paid wages, you've done all of that stuff, we decided that you cannot exceed 40 francs for all of that, but then at the very end, you can turn in your checks to exceed, because otherwise, like, you know, you might have several tied players at 40 if you can never exceed 40. I guess there are variants where you can exceed 40 francs. We did not play with one of those variants, but apparently you can do that. So I think next time we might want to do that, because I feel like, you know, staying at 40 francs is really prohibitive when you play this game. So yeah, so that is essentially how you play the Bloody Inn. I do think that the rule book could use a lot of clarifications. There are a lot of posts on Board Game Geek in the rules section asking for clarification. So, you know, we definitely were not the only ones who needed clarifications on how to interpret certain rules in this game. But yeah, it's a fun little game and I like it. I've always really liked this game. I think it's a nice little game with a like a nice little macabre theme, which I really enjoy, and I'm a huge fan of Weber and Santiago, so of course I'm going to love this game because it has his artwork in it. So yeah, so I do believe it's out of print, so it might be a little bit difficult to find. I also have the expansion for it, which I've never played with, but it introduces new cards, which is the Harmonies. So now that these friends have played this game and we all know the rules a bit better, maybe we'll get to play with the expansion someday, the Harmonies, which would be really awesome, especially with Halloween coming up, which is my favorite holiday. So yeah, so that was the Bloody Inn. So let's move on. So another game I played again recently is Harvest. So I played a 3-player game of Harvest. This time I played as the woodpecker. So I discussed this game in great detail in my last video, so you can go watch that if you want to learn how it plays and see all the amazing components and stuff. So yeah, the 2 people that I played this game with, they were new to this game. They both really loved it and definitely want to play again. And I would definitely be happy to play again as well. So yeah, so I won't go into too much detail. I will just say that I played a 3-player game of it, played with a new character, played with different different abilities, like a different sunrise starting ability. You know, my sunrise ability was really good. It would just allow me to move forest tile, so clear up space, and I thought I was going to win because, you know, I was able to clear up a lot of space without having to spend, you know, a lot of money in order to do that because of my ability, which was great. But in the end, I came in last place. so you know, typical, but yes, but I really enjoyed my second play of this game, and I'm looking forward to playing it again someday. So yeah, so again, if you want to learn about Harvest in detail, you can go to last week's video. So let's move on. So let's go on to games that I am backing. So I am backing a new game, which is, you know, I'm backing it at the deluxe version, and I'm not the collector's edition. I'm not sure I should do that, but I am backing So You've Been Cursed. So when they came out with the game So You've Been Eaten back in 2020 or 2021, something like that, I covered it for its Kickstarter, and they actually used my video as the main video for that campaign, which was so cool because that was the first time that a publisher had done that. It's been done a couple of times, but that was the first time that that happened. So my So You've Been Eaten overview is like one of my most viewed videos because it was actually the main video of that campaign. Sadly, they did not contact me to cover this game, which I was really sad about. Had I known in advance that, you know, they were coming out with a new game, maybe I would have reached out to them to see if I could have covered this, because this one looks more up my alley than the So You've Been Eaten game, just because of the theme. So I am backing So You've Been Cursed, which is another game that, again, just like So You've Been Eaten, is 0 to 2 players. I've actually never done the 0 player play of the game. I don't even know how that would work. So yeah, so I believe that this one is also 0 to 2 players. Yes, it is. So yeah, so one of the people will be playing as a wizard and the other person will be playing as a rabid monster, or a monster rather. So yeah, so, you know, it looks more up my alley because of the wizard and, like, you know, potions and stuff like that. So I am backing it at the collector's edition. So yeah, so we'll see. So it looks like with the collector's edition, you're just getting more upgraded tokens and, you know, bits and bobs and stuff like that. So we'll see. So yeah, so that's a bit expensive, but I am backing that. And that is the only thing I'm backing. And then of course I have Yonder, which is going to end in a couple of days, which I'm backing at the £1 pledge manager access to get my production copy of the game, since I did cover it for its Kickstarter. So those are the games that I'm backing. So let me show you some stuff that came in. So I am going to be covering this one game for its Kickstarter. So I will be doing a sponsored overview video of this. And that is Lords of Heaven. So this is, or is it Lords of Heaven? Because now the writing looks a bit different. Well, it looks like Lords of Haven? What is that? No, it looks like, I thought it was Lords of Heaven, but now the cover, the writing is making me question whether it's actually heaven or something else. Yeah, no, I think it's Lords of Heaven, but why does it look like it doesn't look like heaven, does it? It looks like Haven here. Did they just forget a letter? Or am I just not able to read this font? I'm going to email them about that because that confuses me. It looks like it says Haven instead of Heaven. Oh, no. Okay, this is the H. Okay, I'm an idiot. So this is an E, this is an H. So it does say Lords of Heaven on it. Wow. Okay, we can just pretend that that did not just happen. Oh my God, so embarrassing. Okay, so this is Lords of Heaven. So let me just read you the back of the box before I show you everything inside of it. Oh God, that's so embarrassing. Okay, so it says, vie for control of Jerusalem and the supremacy of the Middle East as one of the 4 major powers of the medieval world: the Latin Christian Crusaders, the Orthodox Christian Byzantine Empire, the Shia Fatimid Caliphate, or the Sunni Seljuks. Refight and change the history of the first 2 crusades. So one of my friends, actually, he pointed out this game to me. I had already learned about it because I got an email from them. But one of my friends was like, oh, is this something you'd be interested in covering, or does it hit too close to home? And then when I read the description of the game, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to cover it. Like, I understand that, you know, things are really bad right now in Jerusalem and Palestine with the ongoing genocide, and, you know, the Crusades is a touchy topic for many people. But the Crusades is history. So, I won't go into too much politics right now, but if a game is covering history, that's not going to upset me in the way that current events are upsetting me. And I was even more excited about this game because it includes the Shia Fatimid Empire and as a caliphate. And as a Shia Muslim, I do not see my people represented in board games a lot. So if a game has a Shia faction in it, I am going to want to play it and cover it, yes. So I was super excited when I learned that the Shias are represented in this game. So I will just show you, again, this is a prototype version, so a lot of stuff is subject to change. So when I covered Huang, for example, the prototype version was definitely not as nice as the completed version in the end. So a lot of this is, just prototype version. So keep that in mind as I am showing it to you. So here are the different faction boards. Yes. So of course you can guess which faction I'm going to want to play as when I play this game. And here are the dice. So, just makeshift dice right now. There are a bunch of different tokens. I won't open these up right now because knowing me, I'll just drop them everywhere. Some little other tokens, but I will show you some of the cards. So I'll separate them by their backs. So these cards have this back on them, and there's just a whole bunch of different cards. So I'm not gonna show you in great detail because I don't even know how to play yet. But I will say this, that since there are not a lot of components to this game, that makes me happy. It's not gonna be as, to set it up is not going to be a major pain, it looks like. So I'm happy about that. Because sometimes I just want to, immediately start playing. I don't want to spend half an hour or more setting up a game sometimes, So here are these cards. So yeah. It looks like they're different city or region cards of some kind. And then I will show you the main board, and then that is it. So again, very excited that there are not a billion components to this game. Okay, but this board is pretty big. Pretty big. Yes. Ta-da! That is a big board. Okay, so now I will have to figure out how to make my video of this game. But yeah, that is a big board. So yeah, so this arrived. So very excited to cover this for its Kickstarter. So this is just a very early first look at all the components of this prototype edition, which I will be playing next Friday. So this coming Friday, when you watch this video, that will hopefully be in 4 days from when you watch this. So that arrived. So again, I will be doing a sponsored overview video of that, but then when the weekly playback and everything else is not sponsored, of course. There's another publisher for whom I had covered a game recently, and which was, have it sitting there, the name escapes me, Ostia Pirates. So I reached out to them to see if I could get a review copy of Aqua because it just looked adorable with all of the sea creatures, and they were kind enough to send me both Aqua and its expansion, which is called Beach Combing. So I will show you this one first. So these are review copies from this publisher. And let me see who designed this game, Totsuka Chulo. And yeah, so I am using some of my own bags for the various components, but it has so many cool fish and creature meeples. Oh my God, just look at those. Are they not amazing? And then there's different coral pieces and stuff in here, and seaweed, it looks like. I love it so freaking much. And then the different player colors. So there's 4 different player colors. There's this orange, gray, lime green, and white. I'll just show you the main board. So the main board looks like this. And then you have this circular board, and then each person has a player board. So yeah. And then there are some cards, and there's also a bag. So, you're going to be putting a certain number of tokens into this bag, depending on the player count from what I saw in the rule book. So let me just show you some of the cards. So there's some different kinds of cards. So here are the backs, so different kinds of cards. And here are the fronts. Just a quick look at this. So that is Aqua Garden, and now I shall show you the expansion. So the expansion comes with also a lot of cool different meeples, screen printed meeples. So like, for example, look at this, like, oh my God. So it includes like different seashells, it includes trash, like bottles, like all different kinds of stuff. But the colors are just so freaking pretty. And then this also includes different sea creatures like octopus and a big sea turtle. Yeah, just really amazing. And this one includes a bunch of different small cards because I am roasting, because it is hot and I do not have the air conditioning on in this room. I'm not gonna go into too much detail with showing you this expansion, but yeah. Here are the player boards for the expansion, and then there's a main board, and then the rule book and a score pad and some more cards. So again, because I'm melting, I'm not going to show you everything right now. So when I discuss how to play this game, I will show you in detail then. So yeah, so let me see. I think that is all I have received recently. So why don't we move on? So I did not play Harmonies recently, but I want to show you a board game upgrade that I got recently, because the bag that Harmonies came with, I think I have it here somewhere, or maybe it's a bit too far away. Actually, one second, I'll just go get it to show you guys, because this bag is just terrible. So this is the bag that Harmonies came with. Yeah, okay, for a second I thought my English was messed up. So this is a bag that Harmonies came with, and mine already has a hole in it from which the tokens would fall through. And I've only played this game like 3 or 4 times, right? And it's already got this giant hole and all the tokens were falling through. So I went on Etsy and I ordered a bag, which I absolutely love because I also feel like it fits with the theme of the game. So I found this bag on Etsy, and this person creates a lot of cool bags in different patterns. So this is the large size, and her name is Kelly's Stitch Shop. So I bought this from Etsy, and I feel like it even matches one of the cards in the game. So I absolutely love this, and it is lined, so the tokens will not, you know, fall through this bag eventually. Like, I don't think it'll get a hole in this bag like this one did. So yeah, but you can see that it's completely lined on the inside, and I absolutely love it. It holds all the tokens really nicely, lots more space for your hands. So yeah, so I bought this from Etsy and I absolutely love it. And if you put it like this way in the box, there's no box lift either, so you can just lay it down lengthwise this way. So yeah, really great. And again, it goes with the theme of the game because it's, you know, a whimsical animal artwork. Just absolutely love it. So yeah, so that is one of my favorite board game upgrades, which I know is not much of an upgrade, but still I really love this board game upgrade. So I just wanted to show you guys because this bag really sucks. Okay, so let's move on. So got some feedback. So it looks like some people are interested in hopefully receiving some games that I'm planning to call. When I go into the cat section, you will learn why I have been extremely busy over the last week and just really exhausted. So I did not get a chance to set aside games that I'm planning on calling. So right now the only game that I know I want to call is Mariposas. So if that is a game that you would be interested in receiving by simply paying for shipping, post what your favorite butterfly is in the comments below. So again, if you are an international viewer, I will you know, see if you win, I'll reach out to you first and see if you are able to pay for shipping. We'll see how much it is to your country or wherever. And if not, you know, I'll see if I'm willing to contribute a little bit to shipping because I do want to reward my international viewers, but I'm also very tight on money. So we'll figure something out. But for now, just post in the comments below what your favorite type of butterfly is if you would like to win a copy of Mariposas, which by the way has been played only once. So it's in like brand new condition. The box might be a little bit scuffed up, I don't know. From moving, when I moved from my apartment to my house, I will have to check the box later and I can let you know, but I'm guessing it's in very good condition because it's only been played once, and I, you know, did a very good job with packing my games when I was moving, I believe so. And it also comes with the special edition purple butterflies in this game. So yeah, so if you are interested in winning a copy of Mariposas and are willing to pay for shipping, then leave in the comments below what your favorite type of butterfly is, and I will randomly select a winner and reach out to you. And again, this contest is only open to people who have commented on my videos at least once before, because I just don't want a bunch of random people showing up to my channel to get free games who don't even support my content. So I will be checking for that. And you, of course, have to be subscribed to my channel. And so I will pick a winner before I shoot my video next week, and I'll reach out to the winner either by comment or some other way. So again, these are not like super formal giveaways, but I'm gonna try to like refine the rules as we go along here and make it more concrete, so you know, everything seems fair. But you know, these are just games that I'm basically going to be giving away for free as long as you pay for shipping. So yeah, so the first game will be Mary Posts Us. So yeah, so leave a comment below about your favorite butterfly, and yeah, that will have you entered for this giveaway. And I would recommend you do that before Friday, because I typically shoot videos on a Sunday. So let's say Friday is your deadline. Okay, and you know, going forward, I'll have more games to give away like this. Okay, so let's move on. So last week when I talked about the cats, I mentioned how in colony number 3, which has only 1 cat left, that the 2 people who were helping me feed said that they would feed until the end of August. Well, it turns out the very next day, one of those feeders decided to just quit. So she decided that she is just fed up and done. And she also said that she doesn't feel safe, which I was like a bit like confused about, because number one, this is probably one of the safest colonies to feed at, because it's in a very busy location, which is why it's one of the most dangerous locations for these cats, which is why we had to try to get them all relocated, because it's located near a highway. But there are huge floodlights and everything, and so even when I go there really late at night, I don't worry, because I don't even need a flashlight. Like, there is a huge light, which I'll get into in a little bit. So anyway, so one of the people, she, you know, she said she didn't feel safe, which again, you know, she's an army girl. She served in the army, so she's a tough cookie, but still you know, I have to respect that different people have different levels of fear for different reasons. So she didn't feel safe, so she decided to quit the day after I shot my video, which was really disappointing. So then I was like, crap, like now I have to take over her feeding days, because I was only feeding 1 day a week here, because I feed every day a lot of food at the 2 big colonies that I take care of. So now I had to take over her days. And then the other person, I convinced her to stay on until the end of the month, because, you know, I really need to get this cat trapped and then just be done with this location, so that, you know, there's no more cats left here. So the other person agreed to stay on until the end of the month. So now I'm feeding here 4 days a week while she's doing 3. However, I'm not actually now feeding, because I've been attempting to trap this cat. So I've been going out late at night every night. Tonight will be, for just the last few days, so tonight will be the 4th night that I'm doing this, setting up a trap with food in it. So I've not been leaving the regular bowls and plates of food for this cat, but instead putting food in the trap, as the rescue organization has told me to do, trying really hard to trap this cat, you know, following all of their advice in order to, you know, trap him. So far I've been very unsuccessful, and I have to, like, you know, then wake up super early, because we don't want the cat, because this is a trap that I'm not actually sitting there monitoring, because this cat likes to show up in the middle of the night. So it's a unique situation where I go late at night in order to set up the trap, and then go very early in the morning to see if we caught him, so that hopefully he hasn't spent too much time in there and has been scared. So the trap is completely draped with a blanket, because cats, when they're trapped, can get really scared and then keep on running into the cage trying to get out. So it's completely draped with a blanket, except of course the front opening, where the door will come down once he triggers the plate inside. So one of the nights it rained a lot, and then I had to bring home the blanket and put it in my dryer. So then I went out and bought a shower curtain to cover the blanket with. So that keeps dry, because I don't want the cat to, you know, stay in like a wet place with water dripping on him. So I bought a shower curtain to keep the blanket dry, and then tucked that underneath. And so yeah, so it's a whole process. And then, so, you know, last 3 nights, or maybe it's been 4 nights already, have been unsuccessful. So now they've told me that I need to go buy Kentucky Fried Chicken for him, and that sometimes that works in order to trap cats. So I will be going and buying him Kentucky Fried Chicken tonight, and every night until I get him. So far I've been using tuna and dry food and treats and other stuff like that, and leaving a trail of food you know, to try to lure him into the trap, but so far very unsuccessful. So I'm just really tired because I have to go late at night to set up the trap, then go early in the morning to see if he's there. And if he is there, then I'm gonna need to meet up with the rescue organization to get him into the holding area where they will keep him and take care of him until he gets his, you know, gets spayed or neutered, depending on what he or she is, and then, you know, gets vaccinated and then hopefully relocated. So I'm just exhausted because I'm doing this in addition to taking care of the 2 colonies that I take care of every day. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing every night and very early in the morning. So just tired, very tired. I'm just really just, you know, on the one hand, you know, maybe the fact that the other girl quit right away is what spurred me into action finally. And I'm finally like, okay, we really need to get this cat trapped. And I took the trapping course. So the rescue organization is like, it's your responsibility. We're not going to do it. Because before they were the ones I would contact and be like, hey, I've, you know, spotted a new cat that needs to be trapped. And they would come and help me and trap the cat. And I would sometimes assist. But now it's 100% my responsibility to trap any cats that need trapping in the colonies I take care of. So that's a lot of work. And let me just say that I hate humidity. Like, I absolutely hate humidity. Like, I can deal with dry heat, okay, I guess, but if it's humid, I feel like I'm just sweating bullets. I just feel gross and sticky and icky and just really, really gross. And so trapping cats in humid weather is definitely not something I want to be doing. So I'm really hoping that there's a couple of cats in colony number 2, and I think I've seen a new cat in colony number 1. I need to try to get a better look at him, but I'm pretty sure he's a new cat because he's kind of really afraid of me, and all the other cats know me, but this is an all black cat in colony number 1 who I've never seen before, so I think he's a new one. So I will need to trap him, and I want to try to trap him before, you know, he ends up having babies, or she, because I really, you know, want to, you know, put an end to all the baby making so that I won't have to trap anymore. So yeah, so and then there's I still think 1 or 2 cats or maybe 3 that look like they're untipped at colony number 2. So yeah, so I would prefer to do that when it's not insanely humid outside because I don't want to sit there. So these cats, you know, I would not leave them in a trap overnight. These cats are more willing to come out and eat, and so I would have to use like a drop trap or some other kind of trap, so I'd have to borrow that from the rescue organization because I still haven't bought a trap of my own. So the one that I'm using for colony number 3 right now is a borrowed trap. So yeah, so that's that story. So that's why I'm kind of tired. And in colony number 2, I'll just post a video, but there was a bunch of skunks, baby skunks, eating the cat food yesterday. So I took a video of them. But yeah, they are adorable. They're so cute. And I think that they know that I'm the feeder. Like, not one of them even tried to spray me, even though I got pretty close to them. Like, they were not about spraying me. They were like just ignoring me kind of and just going on eating their food. Like, they weren't even afraid of me. So I think that they know who I am now, and even the skunks are like comfortable with me. So yes, they're just really adorable. So yeah, so that is the cat update. So we shall move on. So let's have our fiction book club discussion first. So we were supposed to read chapters 6 and 7. So chapter 6 was the bestseller of the month. Now I think that's a bit weird, like okay, never mind. The chapter name kind of explains. So I guess that they do this every month then, because I was like, why are they only doing it for December? But maybe they just don't show all the other months, because I thought that that was kind of fair, that Santa Claus will just win every single month. But then I was happy that Santa Claus did not win, because in this chapter you learn that the loneliest people, or not people, during the holidays who are seeking out dreams to kind of make them feel better are animals, which is so sad. So, you know, that part was just really, really sad. Just, you know, where how they described like a family going out for Christmas dinners and this and that, and their poor little dog just being left at home all alone, and then the doggy going to the dream shop to, you know, purchase some dreams that would make him feel a little bit better. Like, that was just so sad. And it makes me sad when I leave my cats. Like, I know my cats really miss me, especially Zaytoon. Like, if I go out somewhere, he is waiting by the door as I'm leaving, and then when I come home, he is in the living room, which is basically where I enter into in my house, and he's always there whenever I enter my house if I've been gone somewhere. So it's like he's waiting for me. So yeah, it does make me sad to think that these animals are sad and lonely when we're gone. So it's very relatable. So I'm actually glad that the animal, the dream maker who makes animals dreams for animals won the bestseller of the month. So that made me happy. And then the next chapter was Yesterday and Benzene Ring. Like, I don't even know what that chapter title means, but in this chapter, wait, am I on the right chapter? Yeah. So in this chapter, like, this person is seeking inspiration, and they want inspiration in order to, I believe it's write a song or something like that. And then there's mention of the Beatles in this chapter. And again, it makes me really think that, yes, the people who are purchasing the dreams are people living in the real world, while the people working in the dream store are in your subconscious in some fantasy world, like that we, you know, obviously have nothing to do with. And, you know, in this fantasy world, they have like talking animals, the Noctilucas and whatever they're called, and so on. So yeah, so this person is just seeking inspiration, and yeah, just a nice little chapter about them wanting inspiration. I feel like there was something I wanted to talk about, but now I don't really remember what it was because I did not mark it down. Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember there was something I wanted to talk about, and now I don't remember what it was, which is not very good. Yes. So anyway, so yeah, so these were the two chapters we read. Let me know what you thought of both of them. You know what? I actually don't know many Beatles songs, so they were a little bit before my time, I guess. But maybe I should listen to their music someday. But anyway, from these two chapters, let me know what you related to or what you really liked from these chapters. And do you think animals dream? That's a good question, I feel like. I want to know whether you think animals can dream. According to researchers, I think that they've said that yes, animals can dream. And I've read articles about what cats supposedly dream about, which is so sad to think that maybe they even have nightmares. Like, can you imagine your pet cat or dog or whatever having a nightmare? Like, how sad would that be? Like, I feel like that there is just so much unknown about the human mind and the subconscious. Like, it's just crazy that we can like enter these completely different worlds when we sleep. Like, it's really, really insane when you think about it, right? So let me know if you think animals dream and what you think they dream about. I hope they have happy dreams because animals deserve to be happy. They are like the most precious things, right? Let me know if you want to just finish the whole book by the end of next week, because if we read chapters 8 and 9, then all we'll have left after that is the prologue, or not the prologue, the epilogues rather. Yeah, and there's two short epilogues. There's epilogue 1 and epilogue 2. So personally, I think we could read all of it because it's pretty fast reading. So why don't we just finish the book for next week? Let me know if you think that's too much in the comments below. And then we can also next week maybe pick a book for the next fiction book that we want to read together if you want to continue this. Let me know in the comments below whether you would like to continue with the fiction book club and whether you want to decide together which book we should read. Maybe I can list some suggestions below from books that I've purchased and haven't gotten around to reading yet because I have a whole stack of books that I need to get to. Let me know what you would prefer to do. So yeah, so for next week, let's think about finishing the whole book, but leave comments below on what you would prefer to do. But also let me know what you think animals dream about and what you related to in this book for this week. So yeah, all right, let's move on. So for this week, we were supposed to read the rest of chapter 2. And chapter 2 is the Second Declaration of War, 1947 to 1948. So I guess I won't go into too much detail because it's a lot of the same. It's a lot about how the rest of the Arab world really failed the Palestinians. And it was just really hard to read and just really, really depressing as usual. Like, you know, one of the lines was that Transjordan's King Abdullah was a beneficiary of the war, and blah, 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 which is, you know, again, you're seeing these corrupt Arab leaders who care more about themselves than their fellow Arabs and are actually benefiting from the war and from Palestine not gaining independence. It was just really, really upsetting to read all of this. And, you know, again, you're just seeing how Israel is becoming more and more powerful. Yeah. So it says here at one point, you know, Saudi Arabia, which I hate, says, once the state of Israel was established, both the United States and, sorry, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they both recognized it and offered crucial military support, which was instrumental in its victory. So yeah, so the United States and Soviet Union, not Saudi Arabia. There was another part with Saudi Arabia in it. So the Soviet Union and the United States, who are both like dueling powers, even supported Israel for its own reasons. So yeah, so that was not helpful. But there was a part with Saudi Arabia that I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, here it is. So yeah, neither policymakers nor the oil companies perceived Israel as a threat to U.S. oil interests, given Saudi complacence, oh my God, I cannot talk today, over Palestine. So yes, this was infuriating to read. So yeah, I've always hated Saudi Arabia, and rightly so, because they are basically puppets of the U.S. and they have always been complacent when it comes to the suffering of other Muslim countries. And this is a country that claims to be, you know, the best Muslim country, where the house of God is located for Muslims, the Kaaba, where, you know, Muslims are obligated to make a pilgrimage to if they can afford to, and if they are in good health to be able to make that journey. So, you know, so many Muslims are at the mercy of the Saudi government in order to make this pilgrimage, and it just infuriates me. Like, it just really infuriates me that the house of God for Muslims is in this country that has been nothing but a puppet to the West for, you know, a very long time, for over half a century now. Like, it's just sickening. I just absolutely hate Saudi Arabia. So yeah, so yeah, you know, then it's talking about how after the Nakba, more than 1 million Palestinians faced a world turned utterly upside down. So, you know, they experienced profound social disruption. You know, this includes the loss of homes, jobs, and deeply rooted communities. And it talks a lot about that. It talks a lot about the refugees in the various countries and how some of them chose to, you know, get registered as being a refugee in a camp, and what that meant for them, whether, you know, as opposed to not registering with UNRWA and not, you know, having that refugee status, and what that meant. So if you did not register with UNRWA and did not become someone on that list, then you are more likely to be able to get an education if you had the means to do so, and get a job, and then hopefully get citizenship of these other countries that you know, were a refugee in and stuff. So it's just really upsetting, because all these people who were exterminated from their homes, had their land stolen, which also this chapter talks a lot about, because it even mentions that they, you know, that this wouldn't have been possible unless Israel did all of this. So like, it talks about how Israel, you know, had, like, without pushing people out, without exterminating them, without forcing them out of their homes, without stealing their lands and their businesses, that the state of Israel would not have been able to become the Jewish state that, you know, the Zionists envisioned. So this chapter talks about that. So, you know, it's just really upsetting to see that all these Palestinians who have been forced out of their home, you know, what struggles they had to go through once they were in other locations, whether they were in other Arab states or elsewhere. Like, you know, they've had to struggle nonstop, you know, to gain, you know, livelihoods and so on. It's just really, really sad. And it talks a lot about how Israel, you know, stole all the lands and dispossessed the, you know, Arabs and this and that. So it says, until 1966, most Palestinians lived under strict martial law and much of their land was seized. So it says, and then, you know, the JNF, whose discriminatory charter prescribed that such property which was seized could only be used for the benefit of the Jewish people. And then it says, this provision meant that dispossessed Arab owners could neither buy back nor lease what had once been their property, nor could any other non-Jew. So, you know, it talks a lot about how Arabs were essentially becoming minorities in their own home. Like, they were kicked out of their homes, they had their homes stolen, they had their land stolen, they had their businesses stolen, and now they're the minorities in what was their home. Like, it's just so upsetting. Like, we've already gone over how Palestine was colonized, and it's just becoming more and more like solidified here as time goes on, and it's just really upsetting. Just very, very upsetting. Yeah, so that's a lot of what this chapter is. And then, you know, it goes into a little bit of the history of Jordan and Lebanon, and, you know, why the Palestinians were, you know, granted citizenship or not, or what those states were doing at the time. It goes into a little bit of history about those states at that time. So yeah, and then, you know, you learn a little bit more about how the Palestinians started to, you know, form their armed resistance groups because they needed a way to fight back because the Arabs were basically useless to them. The rest of the Arab states were utterly useless to them and not helping them in any way whatsoever. So yeah, so that is basically this chapter. Yeah, so, you know, I've highlighted quite a bit of stuff, but I feel like a lot of it's stuff that I've already kind of said. But yeah, a lot of it is relatable to today. You know, at one point I talked about how many Arabs were left in what is now Israel, and it made me think about the Stockholm Syndrome. Like, it made me think about the Arabs, the very few Arabs who you see on the media that the Zionists will push forward as being like, oh, see, we treat people really well here, and the Arabs love Israel. The Arabs are treated well. They're not second-class citizens. There's no apartheid, blah, 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 blah. Like, all I can think of is the Stockholm Syndrome when I see these few Arabs that they find in order to propagate their, you know, their propaganda, their Zionist propaganda. So yeah, I can think of nothing but the Stockholm Syndrome. Like, you have convinced these people whose homes you stole and forced them into certain areas that, yeah, they're perfectly fine and happy there when the rest of the Palestinians who were expelled and, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, so, oh yeah, and then one of the things you see here is the very beginnings of Israel always retaliating, and I'm going to say retaliating in quotes because, let's be real, they started all of this, but Israel retaliating always disproportionately. Like, at one point you hear about how these 3 Jewish people were killed, and in response Israel killed 69 Palestinians. And in this chapter you see a lot about how summary executions that started, you know, back then, and Israel has been executing people, like hundreds of men, you know, just lining them up and just killing them. And then, you know, the excuses they offer, which is everything that you see today. They've been doing this for over 75 years. For over 75 years, they have been using excuses to just summarily execute Palestinians. And that includes babies. Just really, really disgusting. It's just, Zionists are just sick in the head. I just don't understand how you can so easily kill another person and take their home, take everything from them, and think that you deserve it, that it's perfectly fine to do that to another group of people because God said so, because your God said so. Like, you know, that's the excuse they use, that their God said that they're the chosen people and that this is their land. You know, that's what Zionists say. However, lots of anti-Zionist Jews around the world, and there are hundreds of thousands of them, will tell you that no, their religion does not say this. But the reason that people are afraid of being anti-Zionist and standing up against Zionism is because that the Zionists will claim anti-Semitism every time someone says, you know, that they're anti-Zionist. Like, I don't know. I'm just exhausted. I'm just tired and angry. So yeah, let me know what really stood out to you in this chapter. It's just more of the same. And I just feel like when I'm reading this, it just feels like it's just a, you know, it's just like what we're seeing today, everything we're seeing today. Like, even the same places are mentioned, like Khan Yunis, like the massacres in this chapter that took place in Khan Yunis or Rafah. Like, what do we see happening? We've seen massacre after massacre after massacre in Khan Yunis and Rafah in these days since the genocide began. It's just all a repeat. It's just like history just keeps on repeating itself over and over and over because the world will not stand up and do anything about it. So yeah, so let me know what you think and what your thoughts are. So for next week, we're going to read, I suppose, the first half of chapter 3, because again, this is very dense reading. So chapter 3 goes from page 96 to page 138 or 137. So let's read, I don't know, I'm just trying to eyeball it here. So why don't we read up to page, yeah, let's read up to the break on page 118. I think that that's a good space to stop. I know that's a little bit longer than maybe we typically read, but it looks like that's a good space to stop. So read up to the page, to the break on page 118 for next week. And again, that is chapter 3, the Third Declaration of War, 1967. So read up to page 118 for next week. So yeah, so let's move on. So I decided to take a little break because I was melting, and of course now when I come back my front ring light is dead again. So yay! So yes, very inconsistent. So anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about Palestine and what's been going on, and of course the board game industry and their silence, and just some new things that I kind of found which I think are interesting. So firstly, let's just talk about what's been happening in Palestine. So of course, you know, the genocide is ongoing and it's just massacre after massacre. And the thing is, like, every time a new massacre occurs, you know, media wants you to forget about these massacres. The media does not, Western media does not want to focus on these massacres. And if you're wondering, like, how can this be a genocide when only 100 people were killed, or, you know, like 200 people were killed, or 60 people were killed in this massacre? How is that a genocide? A genocide is, in this instance, is comprised of massacre after massacre after massacre. And when you add up all the massacres, you get a shit ton of people who have been killed by Israel. So in the latest massacre, I believe over 100 people were killed. And of course, you know, they bombed a mosque in which people were praying. And yeah, and they just killed all the people who were engaging in prayer. Like, there was no warning given, because Israel likes to claim that it always gives warning to the civilians for them to leave the area. Like, bullshit. No warning was given. All these people who were praying were killed. And, you know, the extent of the heat, because, you know, when you bomb a location, the heat is immense. So many of these bodies just completely melted, and they've been having to just collect whatever body pieces they can find and put them into plastic bags. So the method they've been using is they will weigh around 70 kilograms of human material, like flesh and bones, and stick that in a bag and count that as one human. And they'll do a smaller amount for a child. So can you imagine having to go around just collecting random body parts and sticking them into a bag and then handing it off to someone and being like, okay, this is your mother, this is your father, you know, this is your husband or wife, this is your child. Yeah, so you can bury this, even though we don't know whether it's actually comprised of body parts of your loved one, but you just kind of have to pretend it is, because that's the reality of the situation, because you cannot identify people when all you're picking up is pieces of human bodies. Like, you're picking up maybe a finger here or a foot here or whatever. Like, it's just beyond horrific. And this is what the Palestinians have been dealing with since October. I mean, for the last 75 years, if we're being honest, but, you know, this massive assault, this genocide, you know, since October. So yeah, so that's what we're seeing. And it's absolutely horrific, and I don't understand how people can just go on with their lives like everything's fine. Like, how can anyone hear the news of, you know, these kinds of massacres and see the footage that is coming out of Palestine and just act like everything is okay? That, you know, okay, like, how can people be so indifferent to it? Like, the images and the videos I have seen, I've seen images and videos of children whose heads are literally blown open, and you can see the insides of their heads. You can see the insides of their heads or their bodies spilling out of them. Like, one of the most recent videos I saw was of a baby whose head had this giant hole in it, and you could literally see their brains inside. And the father was holding this child and this baby, and just, yeah, it was just beyond horrific. And I don't understand how people can just turn a blind eye to this. Like, how can anyone just ignore what is happening? Like, you know, Palestinians have been so dehumanized that people are just so indifferent, and they're so desensitized to what is happening to these Palestinian people. Like, could you ever imagine that, you know, people became, if no one would become this desensitized to white people being massacred like this? Like, if such an atrocity happened in some European country where everyone is white, do you think the world would stay silent? No. Look at Ukraine. Ukraine has not even had to deal with the stuff that Palestinians have had to deal with. You know, far fewer people have been killed in Ukraine since Russia's attack began. Yet you know, there was an outpouring of support for Ukraine. Where the hell is the outpouring of support for Palestinians? But Palestinians have been so dehumanized that, you know, people are so desensitized to any news coming out of Palestine. It's just incredibly upsetting. And it's upsetting to see the board game industry, you know, pretending to care on a superficial level, but never posting about it, never raising awareness about it. So I just want to go into some more of the double standards that I see in this industry. So I thought I would do something interesting. So I noticed that, I don't know when this happened, but at some point, Suzanne Sheldon added anti-genocide to her Twitter biography, which you can see here. And I was like, well, that's curious because I've never seen her post anything about the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So, you know, let's just do a search, shall we, and see what, you know, posts come up with the word genocide in them. And if you do a search on her Twitter, because you can do that, you can go to someone's profile and there's a search bar and you can just type in a word and all the tweets that they have made that contain that word will come up, right? So any tweet that had the word genocide in it had to do with the Holocaust. There's nothing that references what is happening to Palestinians right now. So any tweet that she had made with the word genocide have to do with the Holocaust. So, you know, she, so yes, so you can, you know, I'll post the screenshot here so you can see those tweets. So I won't read all of them. So nothing about Palestine. So then I was like, okay, well, let's do a search for Gaza. When you do a search for Gaza, nothing comes up. So then I was like, okay, well, let's put in the word Palestine. The only tweet that comes up from her with the word Palestine in it was from the 2016 elections, in which she stated, and let me just find it, I have it here somewhere, in which she stated that she won't be voting for Jill Stein because she doesn't agree with Jill Stein's views on Palestine. So she said, so this is from October 9th, 2016. I agree with a number of her positions, but her statements on Israel/Palestine concern me. More pressing is, in spite of her admirable education, she's pushing more and more pseudoscience. But I do understand why she's appealing. I just think some think she's more like Bernie than she actually is. So what was Jill Stein's position on Palestine back in 2016 during that presidential election? So I found this website that, you know, shows what her stance on Palestine was back then. So I'm just going to post a screenshot while I look for it right now. Let's see if I can find it. But her stance on Palestine, let me see if I can just find the image. 305. Sorry, just bear with me while I find that image. Yeah, maybe I should have. Okay, here we go. So it said, so this website, which talks, it's called ballotpedia.org. So it says, Stein said in a statement on June 6, 2016, that she supported the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel. Everyone who is pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide supports this movement. I've been talking about it since the beginning, since October. And, you know, a few years ago as well. The United States has, so she says, the United States has encouraged the worst tendencies of the Israeli government as it pursues policies of occupation, apartheid, assassination, illegal settlements, demolitions, blockades, building of nuclear bombs, indefinite detention, collective punishment, and defiance of international laws. Therefore, the Stein campaign calls for ending military and economic support for the Israeli government while it is committing war crimes and defying international law, Stein said. So what about this is so terrible? I would love to know, for someone who claims that she is anti-genocide by putting it in her Twitter biography, like, what about this is wrong? What about this did Stein say that is wrong? It's all 100% correct. Israel does engage. Israel is an occupying entity. It is occupying Palestine. And if you read this book, you would know that. You would know that Israel is a colonial state. Israel colonized Palestine. And if you read this book, you would see that. Read history and you will learn that. So yes, Israel is occupying Palestine. It is engaging in apartheid. Palestinians are not treated the same as Jewish Israelis. So Palestinians within Israel are not treated the same. Arabs within Israel do not have have the same rights. It is an apartheid state. It does engage in assassinations. We've seen that very recently. So when Israel killed the leader of Hamas in Iran, that's an assassination. And, you know, mind you, they did it so precisely. Like, why is it that when they really set their minds to it, they can have such a precise assassination, but when it comes to Palestine, they're blowing up schools, they're blowing up hospitals, they're blowing up entire apartment buildings and so on, and killing, you know, hundreds of people at once? Why is it that they are capable of doing these precise attacks in Lebanon and Iran, but when it comes to Palestine, just indiscriminately bombing and blowing up entire buildings? And I think we know that why that is, because it's a fucking genocide. That's what it is. And they want to kill as many Palestinians as they can. Illegal settlements. So as we saw, you know, the International Court of Justice recently declared that Israel needs to remove all of its illegal settlements. You can see in the West Bank, where there is no fucking Hamas, that they are taking over and stealing Palestinian land. You can see from this book, from history, and plenty of other books and articles, how Israelis have gone in and just, you know, point blank, just stolen land from Palestinians, kicked them out of their homes, like with all of their possessions in their home, like literally just kicked them out with the assistance of the Israeli military. And yeah, and that just happens. That happens today as we speak. Demolitions, blockades, building of nuclear bombs. You know, why is it that everyone feels safe with Israel, the only nation that is simultaneously attacking 4 other nations, and is the nation that poses a threat in the Middle East to everyone? It's okay for them to build nuclear bombs, but not Iran, because God forbid Iran have nuclear capabilities. You know, it's just insane how people will turn a blind eye to actual evidence before them. Who is the threat? Israel is the threat. Iran is not a threat. If you look at history, Iran will only retaliate if it is attacked first. Iran doesn't go attacking nations the way Israel has been doing. But yeah, you know, everyone's fine with Israel building up nuclear bombs. Indefinite detention, which of course we've seen countless, you know, accounts of. So, you know, we know that this happens. Innocent Palestinians are held in detention facilities in these really horrible places where they are abused and sexually abused. Now we've seen countless reports of Palestinians who are raped. And do we have evidence of Israelis being raped? No. Like, it's lie after lie. And as I've said before, time and time again, every accusation is a confession. When Israel claimed that babies were beheaded, did we see any proof of that? No. Did we see proof of babies being put in ovens? No. Absolutely no proof, yet all of these accusations against Hamas were just believed by everyone. Yet we've seen countless proof, like countless pieces of evidence showing that Palestinian babies have been beheaded. We've seen so much evidence of Palestinians being raped in these detention facilities. So yes, blah, 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 blah. Let's see, collective punishment. I mean, I don't even need to go into that. Like, everything that happens against the Palestinians is collective punishment. And then defiance of international law. So yes, Israel is a war criminal, and they defy international law time and time and time again. They've been doing it since they've been created. And you can see this, like in the Palestinian book club that I've been, you know, leading, you can see the evidence starting with the creation of Israel, where they would defy international law and lie about it and just, you know, try to justify their actions. And starting way back then, the world was just turning a blind eye to it. And now more so than ever. So just tell me what about Jill Stein's statement is wrong. So I would love to know, like, why Suzanne found any of Jill Stein's views on Palestine to be problematic. Because anyone with a sense of justice and truth and humanity would agree with Jill Stein that yes, we need to support boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. Israel claims to be the victim. Israel has been riding on the Holocaust for a very long time now, committing countless war crimes, committing countless human rights abuses, and, you know, and just getting away with it by claiming that everything is anti-Semitic. And people like Suzanne fall for it. People like Suzanne believe in this propaganda clearly. So again, I'm just showing you, you know, here are people who claim to be educated, who claim that they care about human rights, who claim that they care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is the only post she has ever made with the word Palestine in it, or Gaza. There's nothing about Gaza anywhere. Yet now her profile says anti-genocide. Like, are we just supposed to believe that, oh yeah, she doesn't, you know, she's against the genocide of the Palestinians when she hasn't said a fucking word about it? Like, not one word about the genocide? Like, complete bullshit. So I just want to point out some of her older posts in which she said something. So let me just find it. Let's see. Sorry, just bear with me. Because she made a post about how, oh yeah, here's this post. So this is from 2019. So she said, if you care about inclusion, diversity, safety, and you don't speak and act on it, your care is worthless. Maybe you should listen to your own words, Suzanne. Moreover, your silence and complacency is taken as endorsement of the status quo. Silence is never assumed to be support of inclusion. It doesn't work that way. And I see those groups and give lip service. I see those groups that give lip service to inclusion, try to use it to capitalize on it like a commodity. I see the groups that cheer their tokenism while remaining silent during controversy so they don't alienate their status quo loving fans. Stop that. Grow up. Look at the world, your friends and hobby industry, and really think about how you want to be recognized with it and stand by it. Yes. So yeah, so complete fucking hypocrite. Like, Suzanne has been standing by the status quo, which is supporting Zionist shills and Zionists in this fucking industry in order to not upset the status quo. We know that this industry is run by fucking Zionists. But Zionists are, you know, no one wants to upset the Zionists. No one wants to walk on their toes. No one wants to let them know that what they believe in and what the nation that they support is doing is 100% wrong. So people like Suzanne stay silent about the genocide of the Palestinians. People like her don't want to upset the status quo. So maybe she should fucking follow her own advice and realize that her silence is not to be assumed to be support and of inclusion and support of being anti-genocide of the Palestinians. Like, this is the kind of hypocrisy that we see in this industry. This is the hypocrisy and the double standards that exist when it comes to Palestine. And it's infuriating. And she's not going to answer to this. She's not going to respond to anything I'm saying in this video. And we know why. We know because she has nothing to say that could justify her silence. What could she possibly say? What could Eric Lang possibly say? What could Rodney Smith possibly say at this point to justify their silence about this genocide? What could they say? What will they say? Well, we don't want to upset anyone. No, because that's not a good reason. No, it's too complicated. Nope, not a good reason. It's not complicated. Since when has genocide ever been complicated? Since when has that been complicated? When is it complicated to see that the people being genocided are the ones who are the victims and the people committing the genocide are the aggressors and the ones in the wrong? How is that fucking complicated? Oh, we don't know much about it. You had years to fucking educate yourself. Back in 2021, when I spoke up against Israel and I was labeled dangerous, you've had 3 fucking years to educate yourself. You've had 3 fucking years where you could read books and read articles and watch videos and educate yourself. There is no fucking excuse for these people's silence. No excuse whatsoever. So they're never going to respond to me. You know, they can claim all they want that I'm baiting them, blah, 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 blah. But hello, what are they possibly going to say to justify their silence? There's nothing they can say. You know, I could share all of the, you know, tweets that Eric Lang has made back in 2021, which shows what, you know, a hypocrite he is as well. Here's a tweet I thought was interesting. So this is from 2022, and Eric Lang said, "Friendly reminder, your posts screaming World War III are actively making social media worse for everyone." Yeah, because, you know, people should just stay silent about their fear about, you know, a dooming war that Israel has started. So, you know, this could apply to today. Like, people are saying that yes, World War III is possible because of what Israel has done. So should we just all stay silent and not say that World War III is imminent or could happen? Because, you know, we don't want to make Eric Lang's timeline, you know, seem all doom and gloom. Like, he should just, you know, see butterflies and rainbows and not acknowledge what is happening in this world. So yeah. Back in 2021, when I called out Eric on his shitty take on Palestine, he said this to me. He wrote, context, the original commenter is bent on criticizing, he's talking about me, other people's not denouncing Israel specifically. Literally the purity test of you speak up about other justice issues and not this. Agreed otherwise. No purity test needed from someone simply criticizing the IDF. But you guys give purity tests to everyone else. Like, literally, that's all these people do is engage in purity tests. Like, when it comes to Black Lives Matter or other issues that these people care about, it's purity test after purity test. But yeah, you know, if someone is not going to condemn the actions of Israel, then, you know, saying a few words is meaningless. So I wrote, in response to this, I was bent out of shape over someone who is very vocal about other human rights issues being silent when it comes to condemning the death of Palestinians, which he did not do, and asking me to condemn what's happening in Myanmar and China, which I do, is akin to saying all lives matter, which is true. And then someone else also said that, yeah, like, how can you come forward and like be like, oh, well, Sarah, do you condemn what's happening in Myanmar and blah, blah, blah? Like, yeah. So another tweet of his, which I found interesting, was from February of 2022. He said, I sincerely hope we can remember the empathy, compassion, and solidarity we rightfully act on for the victimized people of Ukraine. For the next or current time a brown nation, aka Palestinians, falls into humanitarian crisis and brown people need help and solidarity. Where the fuck is the help and solidarity, Eric? Like, where is it? I don't see it. No one sees it. The Palestinians in this industry do not see it. Like, these people are just fucking hypocrites. They just simply say words and make themselves feel good, and then that's it. Then they're done. Like, easy peasy. Like, yeah. So, you know, this is what we see in this industry. We see countless people just being complete fucking hypocrites. Yeah. So, you know, Eric Lang has not spoken up about the ongoing genocide. At no point has he used the word genocide. At no point has Suzanne or Rodney Smith ever said the words genocide. They stay completely silent. And yeah, and they don't want to upset their Zionist publishers and designers and friends and so on. So what is the definition of someone who doesn't want to upset Zionist people and just stay silent? That's what you call a fucking shill. They are Zionist shills. Yeah. And, yeah, it's just, as, you know, as always, it's just very, very disappointing. Yeah. So I guess that's all I have to point out today, but, yeah, it's just, you know, these people are just complete hypocrites, and there's just countless double standards when it comes to Palestinians in this industry. As I said before in one of my videos, there was a Palestinian who commented on Eric's post back from October when he made a post on his Facebook about the attacks on Israel. And a Palestinian person who was a board gamer at the time commented on that post of his, which Eric completely ignored. Eric ignored that comment. He did not respond to it. So here is a Palestinian telling you that your take is again fucking wrong, just like it was in 2021, and you ignore it. I would really love to know what Palestinian friends he has and how they feel about his silence and his shitty takes on Palestine and Israel. He at one point even wrote on Twitter that, you know, he should not be seen as an authority for nuanced takes on Israel and Palestine. Yet here he was again in October giving his shitty take on Israel and Palestine. Like, just either fucking keep your mouth shut or educate yourself. Like, it's not too late to fucking educate yourself. There are people who have joined my book club and are reading this book. It's never too fucking late to educate yourself. I'm just so fucking sick of these people. I hate them. I hate them with a passion because they are fucking hypocrites and they are shills, and nothing they can say right now is going to change that unless they start educating themselves themselves and apologize for their shitty takes on Israel and Palestine, and apologize for supporting Zionists in this industry. Like, everyone, you know, is still supporting Burnt Island Games and Kids Table Board Gaming, known Zionists. They are known Zionists. How do we know they're Zionists? Again, go back to the recording I made in 2021 of my conversation with Helena, in which she could not say why saying Palestinian Lives Matter is wrong, but saying Black Lives Matter is okay. Like, what more proof do you need? Like, these people want to dehumanize Palestinians. They don't want you to care about Palestinians, and you don't fucking care. Like, yeah, these people are just fucking hypocrites. So that is the state of the industry. Do I see it changing anytime soon? No, I don't see it changing within even the next 10 years. These people are always going to be afraid of upsetting their Zionist friends. So yeah, it's just complete, utter bullshit. And, you know, I hope that they watch my segment on this, you know, on them being complete hypocrites, but there's nothing they can say that can justify their silence, their complicity, when they themselves have talked about how silence is complicity, how silence cannot be assumed to be support. So Suzanne can write anti-genocide all she wants in her profile. Nope, you are not anti-genocide of the Palestinians when you have not said a single fucking word. So yeah, so these people are just complete idiots. Like, they're just uneducated idiots who fall for the propaganda that Israel, you know, has been spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on. Like, Israel spends millions and millions and millions of dollars on putting out their disgusting propaganda in order to dehumanize Palestinians. So yeah, you know, who needs to spend that much money on trying to convince the world that they're innocent and trying to convince the world that they're the victims? Who needs to spend that kind of money? If they were truly the victims, would they need to do that? No. But the amount of money that Israel spends on trying to get everyone in the world on their side is ridiculous. And, you know, there's been so much proof of who the victims are. And if you are still blind to it, you're not human. If you still can find no empathy for the Palestinians and you still stay silent, you're not human. You are not human. So yeah, so that's all I have to say this week about Palestine and the board game industry. So let's move on. So this week's question of the week, there are two questions. The first is, of course, inspired by Nestlings, because I can't think of any other question to ask. So I want to know, what is your favorite bird-themed game? So I think I only have 2 bird-themed games, and I've also played Wingspan, but out of the 2 that I own, I'm still going to go with Birdwatcher. So both Nestlings and Birdwatcher are light to midweight games, but I have to say Birdwatcher just because of the beautiful artwork on the cards. So Birdwatcher, you know, is another light medium game, family weight game. It's a set collection game, and I just really love the mechanics, and I really love how the mechanics really go along with the theme in that game, which is one thing that I wasn't really sure about Nestlings, to be honest. Like, I wasn't really feeling the theme come through. Like, I feel like it could have been about anything, to be honest. Like, oh, you just, you know, if you put tokens up here, you're feeding your birds. If you put them down here, like, it's something else. But like the way in which you're collecting tokens from the different biomes and stuff, like the theme wasn't really coming through to me in terms of the mechanics. But in Birdwatcher, it really does. So I would rank Birdwatcher above Nestlings for that reason. But let me know what your favorite bird-themed game is. And the second question is, we've been seeing so many Gen Con Hall photos and videos. I know I've been inundated with them on YouTube and on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, elsewhere. So I want to know, out of all the games that were released at Gen Con, which is the one that you are most excited about? Which is the one that you would want to play first? So yeah, so let me know in the comments below, and until next week, bye!